information officers here on the Interlaken fire. And we're really happy to see a full audience coming out to be interested in information on this fire. I'm with the Type 3 team that is managing this fire, and you're going to meet some more of those folks as we move forward today.
An incident management team, there's different levels, and they range from the initial attack, what they call a Type 4, and that's the local resources, and some of the county folks that help, and they manage those fires, and they catch them quick. So the day-to-day fires of the unattended campfires or the lightning strikes. And an important part is that at any time we can have another one of those out there. So we have to always be in a state of readiness, the same way the search and rescue group that's given us boats, they gotta be careful that something doesn't happen at Fort Groves. The next level up is what's called extended attack incident management team. And we're in between. We're at the Type 3 level here currently. And there's a whole lot of reasons why, but it's when the fires exceed the local capacity or takes them away from being able to do the day-to-day initial attack and their jobs, or when they get tired and they ask for help. So they reached out, and the reason we were here was to help Chief Daly and Chris Nacarado and his group of Mountain Zone folks, because they were overextended and they needed additional help to deal with this fire after the first day. They asked me to come back and other folks because we had strong local ties to the area, knew the area, and wanted to support it because we very much care about the area. What we bring is the ability to leverage additional resources and manage them effectively in a quick, concise manner. And then if we get extended, we have the next level of system and they can bring even more resources to bear. This is a large Type 3 incident, and part of the reason it was large is because we knew how important it was for us to get after this fire and take care of it and preserve Interlaken and the landscape before it got larger, just due to the location and the fuel types. You know, Chris's group and the county, they did an outstanding job during the initial attack, and they were out there pretty much 24 hours. That initial attack preserved Interlaken, and then, you know, Nick's good work in operations and the module over there. Night before last, I believe. It's a little bit of a blur at this point for me, but we had another flare up, so we kept our vigilance up, and we had folks there, and they protected Interlaken again. So we didn't all come back across and go to dinner. We left folks there through the night and that module camp there. And when we had that flare up, they were in the area. They fired up the pumps, they took some water from the lake, and they protected Interlaken, because those historic treasures, whether they're national forests or anything, you don't get them back the same way. And some of that history in the town of Twin Lakes couldn't be recreated, you know, new. So that's why we're here, is to protect the values and resources. What we bring is a highly efficient team that can be built up rapidly, and what we get from the county and community and emergency services, Claire, Heath, and Dan, they welcomed us into their home, let us set up shop here, and you guys have supported this new station. When I had left in 2019, this station was just an idea at the Lake County meetings. Really special place. I'm really impressed with how well this turned out. So congratulations. I know Twin Lakes and a lot of folks were involved in bringing it. What a way to open it, to have the use here. So where are we heading? We have been very successful. This has been a very good operation. It's been very, very seamless, tiring, hardworking. The fire pushed us. We got blessed yesterday with a light rain at the end of the day and cloudy conditions, and we got good plans from operations, and we had the resources to go after and go direct. We feel really good at the current footprint and how that fire looks. The weather right now, we don't feel so good about. It's hot, dry, and windy for the next 7 to 10 days. We're gonna be vigilant and continue to maintain a presence here, just like we were at Interlaken. Even though initial attack saved it, was really good, we didn't let our guard down, and we had a moment the other night that we were glad we're staffed. We'll continue to be staffed. But we are feeling comfortable with the conditions, and we feel like we will will start to scale down our footprint and impact over the next few days.
Next, I'd like to bring up Nick Ostrom, who is the operations section chief for this fire, and he's gonna give you some information about who he is, what he does, and what's going on in the fire.
Well, thank you, everyone. Nick Ostrom, operations section chief here at the Interlaken Fire. My day job's down in Pueblo. I work for the U.S. Forest Service as a prescribed fire specialist. And before that, for 25 years, I've been fighting fire, much like the guys out there on the ground. I've been on hot shot crews, smoke jumping crews, rappelling crews, and distinct. I'm getting a little touched because, yeah, I'm feeling a little emotion with you guys because you might not have known it. I was here for a little bit as the battalion chief for your ground here. Thanks, John. Yeah. So recently I started in Pueblo for since 2020, and I've been working on Salida as the Mountain Zone AFMO. So it's a real honor to be here with you guys today and been able to come up and be part of the team that's been helping you guys out. So, yep. So as operations section chief, it's my job to get the firefighters out to the line, get them a plan that meets the objectives of the management. Make sure their safety is accounted for, make sure that we are able to fight the fire as to your expectations. So to do that, one of our best tools we get is putting out a map. You can see here, it looks a little different than the maps that you have for when you go hiking. Obvious difference. You got the fire here, big fire. And then on here as well, looking at different symbols that represent different things. So, division breaks. So when I talk about divisions, these are areas that's assigned to firefighting personnel. That's their ground. They're in charge of that. They're going to protect that at their best ability. They're going to come up with a plan that and tactics that meets the objectives of the incident. So, and we call those divisions, and we usually use numeric, like Alpha, Delta, Zulu. We also can do the same thing for other strategy that we want to apply, such as structure group. So you won't see that on the map sometimes, but on this fire here we have 3 divisions, and I have a structure group working out here protecting your property and infrastructure and communities down in this area. So mention a little bit about tactics. When the firefighters come out here to their divisions, we're coming up with tactics to stop the forward progression of fire typically, or have the fire meet the objectives of the incident. We use terminology, or a lot of times we use what's called indirect or direct firefighting. Indirect is taking a stance back from the fire and doing what we can at an area maybe for fire to allow for firefighter safety or public safety, typically, away from the incident, and then build a box that way, a containment feature for that fire. And then there's direct, where we have firefighters that get on the fire line and what we call 1 foot in the black typically, where they're actually at the flames fighting the fire. They're cutting down trees and digging fire line trenches right next to the fire. And this fire has been mostly that, direct firefighting. So, Division Alpha here, because of steepness, topography, fuels of this area, and how the fire is burning, a little bit of an indirect attack. Big lake, not too many, fire's not going to catch the lake on fire and burn this way. So letting fire do its natural thing here, to consuming the fuels being like a natural ecological process where it's cleaning up the forest floor, which is going to increase vegetation in the future, which actually might help prevent sediment getting into the lake. So we're able to apply tactics like that here. I do have crews that are catching the fire's edge next to this prescribed fire from a couple years ago. And the direct tactics there. And then using crews, 7 hotshot crews in total from Division Alpha Zulu break to Delta Alpha break going direct, keeping that fire as small as possible in that area. So, looking here at the map, you know, we have this feature here, this Flume Creek prescribed fire. This project was implemented in 2018. This year, you can contribute this to some of the success of stopping the fire progression to the east and to the communities of, you know, Balltown, Granite, and the closer residences out in this area. So the Flume Creek RX has been very beneficial to us in stopping the progression of fire moving eastward. I'll point that out. So I mentioned that we have 7 hotshot crews. We also have 7 engines and 5 helicopters assigned to this incident. You'll see us driving around in the morning, early morning, and late at night. They're going in at daytime. They're going to their fire line assignments that they're going to be most effective. I also have a specialized 10-person module that I've put out here at Interlaken, at the historic site, and they're camped out there 24 hours a day. So, for your knowledge. And they'll be there for as long as we need them to be there and make sure that that area stays secure. Our strategy is to continue with the direct line where we can, and to keep the fire as small as possible, and that's to meet some of the objectives that were set out by, that we identified as the most values at risk at the beginning, and those were the water source here for Aurora water in Colorado Springs in the Arkansas River Basin. We also have, you know, the infrastructure communities at risk. So, and we got lynx habitat on this fire. We're applying all these tactics to meet those objectives of protecting those values and least impact to those values at risk. But yeah. The aircraft? So I got several aircraft on this incident. I believe I said 5 helicopters, but in addition to that, there's an air attack platform assigned. It's a fixed wing airplane that's up high, 20,000 feet AGL, and doing circles for 3 to 4 hours up there, keeping aerial observation on the fire. He's coordinating with the other aircraft I could bring on site. I do have 5 helicopters committed. We have them in Type sizes. Type 1 being the biggest helicopters. I got 2 of those. 2 Type 2 helicopters, a little bit smaller. 2 of those on scene, and a Type 3, a little bit smaller helicopter that's on site. So 5, and they can provide bucket work and delivering water. I've seen that from town. The helicopters scooping up water and dropping on the fires. And also, I can get the retardant planes that you saw a couple of days ago. So, air attack, he's watching out for firefighter safety. He's monitoring the airspace, coordinating with all those resources, the helicopters that I have, and then if we need to bring in more retardant planes, he's coordinating that.
So the good news, though, is that because we are in moderate fire danger, and we have those green fuels that are not susceptible to ignition, we're seeing what's happening is the fire's actually been checking up when it hits those things. So, you know, over here, adjacent to the Flume Creek burn, there's kind of a bigger bowl over this area heading towards Cache Creek. There's a really big aspen stand in there. And the fire actually moved into that, hit the aspen stand, and it checked it up there. Once it hit that, it then started progressing upslope paralleling the aspen. Again, over here in Flume Creek, there's another nice big aspen stand, and the two almost kind of touch up here, but we do have a big stringer of lodgepole in between. And so part of like what the air resources were trying to do the other day with the retardant drops in this area was to just slow that spread or to stop it so that it wouldn't build up a big head of steam and energy and spot out across and above these aspens. So that's kind of why you were seeing the helicopters, well, the aircraft on that side, and then similar to the helicopters on the other side. They're trying to reduce that fire intensity, slow it down, because the aircraft don't actually put out the fire. What they do is they minimize the fire effects to the point where the firefighters can get in there, dig the line right next to the fire, and that's really how the fire is put out. So one thing, it may not feel like it, but we're actually pretty lucky that this fire started when it did, because we're in moderate fire danger conditions. So, this fire's been actively burning now since Tuesday, and we're still under 600 acres. Like, that's pretty cool. I venture to say that if this fire had started in like end of July or August, we might be looking at a 60,000 acre fire. So, again, I know it doesn't feel like it, but it's because of that moderate fire danger that things are really, the fire activity isn't what it could be if we were a lot hotter and drier. A couple success stories I'd like to talk about real quick is, Nick mentioned it, but the Flume Creek burn, that was 2018, 120 acres. Just to give you guys an idea of the fuel loading that's out there, that area was logged. The areas that we couldn't log, we went in and we piled, made hand piles in there. We burned those piles before we tried to broadcast it. We actually burned almost 1,000 piles out of that 120 acres. So that again shows just how much fuel is out there on the ground. But that fire was a really good success, and it was put where it was because it's kind of a pinch point along the lake, and then out here towards the values. And so it's good to see that as a success. And then another thing that I'm really proud of is that for the last 10 years, Mountain Zone Fire has gone around and we have done structure protection on all the historic sites on the Salida and Leadville Ranger districts. And Interlaken was definitely one of the ones that we worked on, and that fields work has really paid off in helping save that. So it really kind of shows the importance of fields work. I know a lot of the folks in Twin Lakes have been proactive and done a lot of fields work in there, but I would encourage people to continue to do so. I mean, we do live in a fire-prone environment here, so it's really good to be proactive and really try to protect your assets out there. Lastly, this may not seem like it now, but this is ecologically a really good thing for the area. This is going to be a great fuel break now. We're talking basically 5 times bigger than the Flume Creek burn, but in conjunction with, we've got a really big fuel break out there now. It's going to be good ecologically in terms of, what we don't want to see is just a monoculture, the same size trees, the same age trees. We want variation. It's going to provide that. This area is already famous for your aspen stands. Well, guess what? You just got another one. It's just going to take a little while to develop. And so again, this is a very unfortunate event, and it really stinks that it was a careless person that started this. But big picture in the long term, it's going to be a good ecological thing, and it's actually going to make this area more fire resistant and resilient in the future. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Pat Mercer. Most of you know me here as the Leadville District Ranger. I've interacted with a few of the people in this room over the course of the last 4.5 years. And now I'm functioning in this role as what's known as an agency administrator, trainee. To my left here is Ryan Neal, and Ryan Neal is the force supervisor for the Pike, San Isabel, and Cimarron Comanche, and he is the qualified agency administrator, so I'm working under him. I don't know if that means I'm unqualified or not. So, a couple of things. One is that we are working with the incident management team to try to work with, in some cases, what the fire is showing us. And what it showed us initially was what we were, that's basically what our strategy and our tactics were developed around. And I know that what it showed us initially, my heart skipped a few beats, and I suspect that some of yours did too. We all have a great love for Interlaken, and we all have, immense attachment to the beauty that's out there across the lakes. And to see that that kind of fire behavior initially was a bit surprising, and so I know that was hard for everyone, and I know it's been stressful to watch this play out over time and wonder what's going on and how are the efforts going, and so that's really what we're here to try to provide you this morning. So, no secret to a lot of you, we have a lot of values at risk out there. Heritage values, so archaeological values. Interlaken, obviously, Twin Lakes has been inhabited since time immemorial, so there's a lot of other heritage values out there too. We have wildlife values. You all know, if you're from around here, Lake County is an epicenter of lynx habitat. And then we also have, obviously, the recreational values, a lot of different, very important trails coming through that area. And then, last but not least, certainly, are the water values that are out there, not only recreationally, but for what Twin Lakes is as a municipal watershed and who that watershed services as well. So, the first thing when the Forest Service or any firefighting agency really arrives on scene is to think about firefighter safety first. And so that's the premise under which we take actions and address things in order to protect life and property. And it happens in that order. So our strategy and our tactics are a reflection of that. We do have some objectives out there, and those objectives, this will be a little bit more later by people who have more expertise than I do in this arena, but our objectives are largely based on fire behavior, the surrounding fuels, and the values in play. And then there's other inputs into that too, like weather. Weather's a big one, topography. So those things play into the actions that we took in trying to protect those heritage values, those wildlife values, recreation, and the water. As a result, though, too, so we're accounting for firefighter safety, and then we're also trying to account for public safety. A lot of you know that there's closure order in place across a lot of places that most people access for recreation, and the reason for that is to try to keep public safety high while the firefighting operations are going on. And so we appreciate everyone's respect and understanding for those. The intent with those is not to keep those out there any longer than necessary. As things ramp down with operations, fire operations, a lot of the aerial operations specifically, the intent is to open things back up when things are safe. Recognizing, of course, it's the weekend, we know that this does have impacts to the livelihood of this area, and so that's being kept in mind. We're trying to stay in touch and communicate our understanding of that, and want to limit those to the extent possible. So know that it's something that is there. It rides with the decision making. And so we want to be understanding and let you know that is certainly the case. We're considering the tourism impacts, the economic impacts that go along with that. So appreciate your understanding of that. Ryan, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, thanks for having me up here. Last time I was up here, I think it was about 10 degrees, so this is more pleasant. Appreciate that. As Pat mentioned, our primary charge is obviously community protection. That's one of our things that we try to protect those community watersheds, property. We've got some historic structures up here. When it overwhelms our local resources, in that initial attack, we bring in an incident management team, which is what we've got here today. You're going to hear from them. They're a very competent team. If they weren't, we'd send them home. And I've done that before. So it's a great team here. I'm really confident that they're meeting the objectives out there. As Pat mentioned, we try to keep these closure areas as small as possible while keeping everybody safe. And we look at those once suppression activities are done in an area and it's safe for the public. We try to get those open as quickly as we can. And so that's one of our big focal areas. I think that a lot of communities get a high fire, every year, and they're very conversant in fire lingo and what goes on. Thankfully, up here, I don't know that they get as much of a fire season as some places. So if they're using terms that don't resonate with you, feel free to ask questions. I didn't know this stuff, until a few years ago very well. So feel free to ask questions. And then we want to be a good partner in the community. And so that's very important to us. If you have issues that you're seeing, please let us know. We'd like to handle them. They're small before they get big. Thanks.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Heath Speckman. I'm the Lake County Sheriff. I wanted to start off with just sharing a few things that I'm truly thankful for, and I think we should all share in those points of gratitude. There's been no loss of life, no loss of structure, and we also have no reports of anyone missing, and no reports of injury. We have staff on standby ready to handle those situations, and we haven't had to utilize them. I believe that's because of our collaboration efforts. We're taking county government, state government, federal government, and objectives were established, and we're sticking to those objectives and putting great equal effort into all of those different objectives, which we can see sometimes things go one way and ignore another area, and we're not seeing that, so I'm thankful for our partners in that effort. We've been able to use state resources like our air tankers, helicopters, as many of you probably saw the air attacks happening a couple days ago, and those strong suppression efforts, I believe, is why we're currently where we're at today. Our initial response, this is this mutual aid period where it's just all hands on deck. We all went out there to try to get this thing under control as soon as possible, and we had our team from the Sheriff's Office didn't hesitate to respond and got right into the mix. We were able to get out there and clear some of the dispersed campers that were out there that were unaware of what was going on. They put themselves in dangerous situations to help that initial response, and then anything from a logistical support role we also assisted on. This will probably be mentioned again, but as we all know, we live in a challenging location. And where this is at, just south of Twin Lakes, where we're separated from major roadways. So our search and rescue team's been able to help out with that break in the water. We're at high elevation and just difficult terrain. So this is their response efforts out there in that difficult terrain is extremely impressive. I wanted to go over our current evacuation status also, just to inform everybody there has not been any evacuation orders issued. We've only issued notices of pre-evacuation warnings for the Lost Canyon area. Initially, Balltown was notified, now it's lifted pretty quickly. And then it's also rolled down into Chaffee County, near the Clear Creek Reservoir, and then also the Cache Creek area. We are looking closely today and tomorrow to see if we can lift those pre-evac orders. We're just really looking at to see how the conditions change throughout the day before we do that. We don't want to lift those pre-evacuation orders prematurely. As you heard, there's a lot of closed areas around the Twin Lake. We ask for that to be respected. We ask the community to try to avoid traffic on Highway 82 since there's an increase in traffic flow from first responders. Yesterday we put out an effort to get to the community in the Lost Canyon area. They're seeing a lot of the smoke fall, so we issued out masks and information on where to get more of that if needed. Hope you guys brought pens. I'd like to give you a number. It's our, I'll let you pull that out. And so what this will be is a phone number with our public health office. If you have any public health concerns or need masks, they have a Facebook page that you can refer to, but their phone number is 719-486-2413. You can also refer to the Lake County Office of Emergency Management website. for sign up to emergency notifications, and I highly recommend that everybody does that. So as we enter the weekend, we have a few traffic concerns. As you can see on the map here, we have Highway 82 and Highway 24. These are major roadways that we're utilizing for the suppression efforts, and we're entering the weekend. We're also in our tourist season. Independence Pass is open and traffic is increasing a lot. So this is a safety concern since the speeds through those areas are pretty fast. They are speeding zones that we're concerned about, and we have a lot of big truck traffic coming in and out. So we're trying to increase our presence there so people know to keep the speed down, and that's a request to the public, is to make sure that we're aware of that. And honestly, just avoiding the area in general is the best bet. A couple of those points that are key is Dexter Point. This entry-exit point right here, we'll see a lot of that traffic coming in and out. So the request is to slow down, even below the speed limit. Watch out for heavy traffic. Also, the intersection that's not on this map on this one, where Highway 82 comes into Highway 24. As many of you know, this section right here, there's a hill coming down. Visibility is not great. So let's make sure that we're slowing down. The speed limit is 50 through there. I would suggest going a little slower, as it takes a little time for these big trucks to pick up speed as they're entering the highway. Any traffic complaints? The common number that most people know for the state patrol is *CSP. So if you have a traffic complaint, you want some attention there, just dial that number. And our non-emergent line for the Lake County Sheriff's Office is 719-486-1249. And as many of you heard, there's been an investigation. We have found that this was human caused. There was a campfire that was not put out correctly. We're still currently investigating this. And when I say we, it's all law enforcement partners. But to notify everybody, the Forest Service is taking the primary investigation, and they were assisted by the Bureau of Land Management. It is an open investigation, as I said, and the tip line number, if you have any information to share, is 303-275-5266. If you have any information, please call that phone number. And along those lines, additional steps we're taking is education. Prevention is the best tool to respond to these things. We'd rather than never happen. We're going to make a strong campaign to educate people on fire safety. Currently with the county, what we're doing is analyzing our equipment, our personnel, making sure that we're all equipped and ready and we can sustain any efforts that are requested from us. We don't have a lot of resources, so we do rely heavily on our partners, and they've been great to work with and providing any additional help that we request. So thank you. Communication efforts, we're communicating with our surrounding counties to make sure that this message gets spread around and to see if they can offer any help with the communication and even the equipment side. And we've received some help from the outside counties. We appreciate that also. And lastly, I'd just like to mention that this is my first fire as the sheriff. It's been a learning lesson. I appreciate the mentorship that I've received from all our partners, and I believe this will better prepare me and our community if something like this happens again. Hopefully it never does, but if it does, we'll be better equipped for next time. So thank you all.